For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of Pac-12 Media Day. Now, it's all condensed into one day, so it was USC's day today. What were your general thoughts from today, Dan?
Well, I think it's interesting. I guess going into the season, USC, I think the average preseason pick for USC is number 17. So you don't have quite the kind of high expectations that you've had, and yet when you looked at the players, I mean, the two players they brought, Cameron, Smith and Porter Gustin, you couldn't have any higher expectations than those two have. Yeah. And I will say this, Clay Helton, I think he mentioned national championship at least 4 times in his, his presentation. Again, that's, something that you say, well, that's part of the USC deal. I don't think we've heard it quite the way, we heard it today. And you like it, the fact that, this is just them talking. It's not like they're, talking for anybody else or expecting anybody else to listen. This is just them saying, this is who we are, this is what we expect, this is how we're working at it, and we think we've got a shot at it. Obviously, you got to have a quarterback come through. Yeah. But those two guys are just really, really, really impressive. Somebody asked Clay, I guess, you have any superstars that, we don't know about or whatever? And he said, no, these two guys are my superstars, Cam and Porter. And that was interesting. Cameron was talking about Porter. And they talk about leadership a lot. And Cameron was talking about what he tries to do for leadership. And he's figured out all these different things. And the Leadership Council will talk about that. Yeah. And we talked about Porter and what Porter does. And he said, he doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is be Porter. And that's enough for leadership. Just Porter being Porter. We found out today, thanks to your question, the last sweet he's had was a bag of M&Ms and when he was in the 8th grade and a camp out when they were out of food. And he said, according to him, the story is, he said, this will be the last time I ever eat a sweet, and he hasn't since the 8th grade, so it's amazing.
That's dedication that I don't understand, but I think the most striking thing from today was how serious Cam and Porter took their leadership roles and what it means to go into this offseason, go into the season as leaders. I feel like sometimes you see people say things, you hear people say things, and you're like, okay, that's nice talk, but where's the action? These guys, you can see the action right away.
Well, and Porter talked about how much he doesn't want to be that guy that gives the speech. And he said, because you would see those guys give the speech, and what they did in the offseason, and he said, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that does it. I don't need to talk about it. And Cameron is the guy who wants to think about it, figure out, how do I keep doing this, and how do I get to be where those guys are so that those guys are doing it and wanting it just as much as I do. And I haven't seen that in a good while. I mean, I think it was kind of natural with just the athletes that those early Pete Carroll teams had. They did it, and they all came together with a one-of-a-kind coach and all that. But these guys look like they're trying to figure out, how do we do this in a special way. I came through today. It was an impressive day, and I'm sure the news probably for some of the people in LA will be Chip Kelly's first Pac-12 Media Day, and he was really good. He was funny, looked like he's having a great time and all that. I think USC just said, we're going to be USC, and we don't need to be in the spotlight, or we don't need to be a pick to go to the college football playoffs. They were 37-2 as the team not to win the championship. Washington got 37 of the 39 votes. I guess there were some others that got 1. But USC was, pretty much unanimous. Well, not unanimous, but a fairly solid choice to win the South. But then just a completely no chance to win the Pac-12 championship. I think, and Clay did say this, and I think they've got a chip on their shoulder. This is a team that's carrying a chip with them.
As far as the tangibles of how Cam and Porter are changing the things, Cam specifically went to Clay Helton and said that he wants this team to bond and have a chemistry like a high school team where you grow up in the program and everyone's bonded with each other and buys in. And part of that strategy is they've actually created a leadership council. It sounds very official, but it's basically players, one player from each position group. It's a voluntary thing. They've texted. It's a Wednesday night meeting. Hey, anyone who can come can come. All 3 quarterbacks go to this meeting. But those leadership guys have made changes like getting more food for the players, changing some of the weight room stuff. So those are some tangibles that we're seeing that this leadership is actually causing change.
Well, they meet with an ex-Marine by the name of, O.C. Vest, I think is the name. And all 3 quarterbacks come. And it's, if you want to come, you come. Just the thought that they really thought they needed that they wanted to have it. And they wanted it to be self-selected. They wanted you there because you wanted to be there. But the point of it is that it's not what happens in that hour on Wednesday night. It's what you take from there and go for the rest of the week. Yeah. And it's impressive. I mean, and you picked up on it. I picked up on it. You can't. I mean, when you're sitting next to Cam or Porter, it's like you're sitting next to a coach. It's interesting. It's kind of a role reversal a little bit. Because Clay is such a good guy and the father figure and all of that kind of thing, and a happy person and a really nice person. And then you've got these 2 guys that are the seniors, and they're sitting there just staring daggers like, we're gonna be good, and we're gonna do the things that it takes to be good. And it's an interesting. I think it'll work well together. I mean, but with a head coach like Clay, I think you do need players like. Yeah. Cam and Porter.
Mm-hmm. As far as the quarterback battle goes, Helton got a lot of questions about that, obviously, and he said that youth is not a deterrent in the factor of naming a starting quarterback. He wants to do that before the first game, but he said whoever wins that battle at the end of fall camp, if it's JT will be the guy. So basically, it's going to be gloves off in fall camp, and the competition will be on.
Well, and they're going to do a lot more live stuff and a lot more under pressure stuff, but that's music to my ears, of course, and a lot more. 2, like when they do 7-on-7, they're going to do 2 of them together, so that when they run 20 plays, you'll actually have 40 because you'll have 2 quarterbacks doing it. But they want, and the difficult thing in putting quarterbacks under live pressure is you can't really tackle them. It's just it can't be. You can do it for the other players, but you can't do it for quarterbacks to make it truly live game action. But, the focus is, as Clay said, I want them feeling the pressure of Porter coming right down into their face and having to get rid of the ball and make the right choice and get it out in time and get it out to the right place. So, I mean, they're saying all the right things, that they're trying to put everybody under pressure and play live as much as possible. I mean, we haven't heard Clay talk about playing live, and it's by necessity. I mean, they've only got 25 practices, and they got 3 quarterbacks to decide, from. Although, I mean, I think Clay's heard what's going on, on the PRPs. They know, for example, and one of the things that's helped, I think, this team bond is that these freshmen, some of them are so darn good. I mean, when you talk to anybody, they say, well, amon-ra, I'm like, he's all business. He's really ready to go. Elijah Griffin, they all have really good things to say. And then when you ask, about the quarterbacks, they just say, JT's really good. I mean, he's really, ready. He's Clay said, you don't want to put a lot of pressure or, more pressure than somebody can handle. But he said, we're going to give him a chance, to take this team over at a very young age. So, and Clay has known JT since JT was in the 7th grade. So JT's been coming around. He said, we know JT. I think they kind of have an idea about how it's going to go, and if it doesn't go that way, it'll be kind of an upset. But they're, they gotta figure it out. It's going to be, we know what we've seen in the PRPs, but I like it that, and I think Cam was talking about this. He said he knows that Jack and Matt want what's best for the team, and that they're going to compete like heck. But it'll be I don't know that it's going to be as big a deal as it was, say, with Sam and Max. And Clay says that's not the case. That was a different situation. Max had, been in the program a lot longer and had more experience and all of that. He said, really now you're dealing with three guys who have almost none or very, very little experience. So you get the feeling that in their minds, these guys are starting out completely even in all categories pretty much, and it will strictly be the guy who looks like he could move the team the best, and it'll be, no other criteria will be used.
Well, that's a big advantage for JT because coming into spring camp, we were saying, well, maybe Fink or Sears have a jump start on JT, but it sounds like it's even starting on September 3rd.
Yeah,
August 3rd.
Yeah, that works two ways because there were some struggles in in fall or in spring camp, spring work, and they're not holding that against them either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just saying you guys are starting even, but that certainly doesn't work against the new freshman at all. So they're going to give him a chance. I think, I just think there's a sense about, we saw it last Friday about how different this team looks even in PRPs when they're not tackling anybody, don't have any pads on, how different the offense looks when JT's in there.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It looks different.
Yeah. Some other newsy items to come out of today. Marlon Tuipulotu and Stephen Carr have been cleared for fall camp, but when Helton was asked about Daniel Monterbebe, he was a little more cautious with his phrasing. He didn't necessarily say he was cleared for fall camp, but they're going to ease him back in. Is that concerning at all, given the trajectory of?
I thought it was interesting what he said about Daniel. He had the most praise for how Daniel was doing of anybody, even though he didn't say he was cleared yet. He talked about how tremendously well he was moving and how he was pain-free. It's just, he said, he thinks the doctors are going to clear him this week. He said he thinks he's in that same situation as those other guys, that he's going to be ready to go when camp starts. But he could not have been more positive about where he thought Daniel was in terms of, physicality.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Pac-12 Media is kind of the turner on the corner. Football is in the vision of our site. Next Friday, fall camp starts. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Well, it would be nice if somebody took the Pac-12. I mean, as we talked to Larry Scott and all, and you can talk about all the great things that the Pac-12 has done forever, well before the the last crew has come here and taken over the Pac-12 offices, about winning all these championships in all kinds of sports. But let's face it, the two sports that matter most, football and men's basketball, the Pac-12's had a tough time of it. And I always have said, more than the Pac-12, it takes a team, it takes a program to break out. And I think USC has to be, by history, by location, by their ability to recruit, all of that, USC kind of has to be the breakout team and has to be the team that can get enough athletes to come in and be in the Final Four and challenge, for a national championship. It would be fun to see if this could be the year. I don't know, but they're definitely not walking away from saying the words national championship, and that was good to hear today.
Mm-hmm. Given what you saw in PRPs versus what you heard today, did anything change about your perception of this team after today?
No. I mean, we just get. You can watch, for example, Cameron Smith, running the defense, and how serious he is with those guys, and how he's got his, all his diagrams and all his whatever, and he's. Well, now we find out that, again, another thing they're doing is the new tests, where they test them twice a week, and you have to know what everybody's doing. You have to be able to write it down.
On defense.
Yeah, on the defense, and that's something that Clancy brought in. But it sounds like these guys kept saying we want to, we don't want guys screwing up. We want guys not only to know what they're doing, but what everybody else is doing. And the more you talk to guys, the more you hear them say this has really been a good thing, and you certainly see it. On the field, in the PRPs, but again, it's that sense of seriousness that this really matters, and Cam is like a mother hen out there. I mean, where are they all? And he gets them together. I mean, they spend more time huddling up and going through, walkthroughs and reactions and alignments than the offense does. I mean, that they are really serious. And I was hoping to, and Cam said he has heard of the game, and he does know. He said Kerry Colbert, who played on the USC team in 2003, has talked to them about the game that I think made modern USC football USC football. Troy Polamalu, who just graduated, Carson Palmer had graduated from the Orange Bowl champs. They go to Auburn, a team that many people think could win the national championship. Big crowd, everybody's all fired up. Auburn's still got a bunch of those guys still playing in the NFL. And USC goes in there with a Matt Leinart, was a quarterback that nobody was sure of. They didn't let him run half the offense. And USC goes in and shuts him out. They don't, they let him across the 50 once. And Cam was saying, I think that could be the model for this team. And I'm thinking, ooh, that's what I've been talking about. I've been thinking about it. I said, get them to show you the film. The highlight film is like 3.5 minutes long, but it's just the way that USC team on defense went after Auburn. Auburn didn't want to play in the second half. I mean, they just had enough. And that's how you have to do it when you're going into Stanford game 2 and Texas game 3. You got to have a defense that's going to take the other team out of the game to the point where they just want to think about next week, and they've said, we're not going to beat these guys. And it's nice that they at least, and I'm really glad to hear Kerry Colbert is talking about that game. That's really, because he was there, and he was part of it, and so was Kenichi. And that's what you'd like to bring back.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for Pac-12 Media Day. The next time we see you guys, football will be here. Fall camp will be starting, so be sure to be tuned to that. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.